This is the Sons of UCF podcast, your place for UCF sports talk year-round. Now, here is Adam and Mike.
All right, congratulations on finding the 133rd episode of the Sons of UCF podcast. Maybe our biggest, most star-studded episode ever. We'll let you decide. My name's Adam, and as always, my good friend and the man responsible for the star-studded guest list that's with us this evening, Mr. UCF Mike, as always. Mike, greetings, my friend. How are you?
Let's do this like Brutus, baby. I've been waiting for this episode. Put a lot of work into this one. I'm ready to go. I'm excited for it.
All right, so what is Mike referring to? Well, let's do the rundown really quickly so you kind of know what to expect. Obviously, we have your staples. We'll have Cow of the Week at the end, in which I will attack a member of my own family, so stay tuned for that. We also have our Big Three. Mike did some diligent research on our Big Three. You don't want to miss Mike's research. It's always top-notch. And then we have three separate little conversations with you with, I don't know, just a quick little Coach Gus Malzahn, I don't know, maybe Coach Johnny Dawkins, and then we'll just throw in Athletic Director Terry Mohajir for good measure. So Malzahn, Dawkins, Mohajir, Big Three, and the Cow, all in the exact same episode, Mike. I'm not sure how we're going to get it all accomplished.
That's a big list there. I don't take a lot of credit for the interviews you do. You booked, 98% of all the guests we've ever had. But every once in a while, I come through with something, and I try to do my part this week. So I hope you guys enjoy what you hear. We discuss a lot of UCF stuff, and then I try to get into some personal things with these guys, get a little of their personalities to come out.
Yeah, I think you'll hear a little bit of a change in some of their answers, right? I think Mike caught him off guard with some less traditional sports related questions. But by and large, Mike, I think the Mohajir conversation was by far the most revealing. I think he gave some information that's been kind of publicly, now out there about some scheduling stuff that you shared that I don't think we had heard officially elsewhere. He just had a really good personality. Seeing the videos behind the scenes, if you haven't seen those, they will soon be posted at our YouTube page, which you can find at our website, which is twonightsmedia.com. Watching the videos and just the video of Mohajir, just the way he engaged, the way he was laughing, joking, kind of moving around a little bit. I think that's a really fun one. But overall, three really unique conversations. And so glad that you could grab those. For those who don't know, Mike was at the Charge On tour down in Fort Lauderdale and had a chance to sit down with those guys. Mike, overall, let's start there really quickly. How was the Charge On tour event?
It was really cool, man. I mean, for me, it was a little different because I had a chance to interview these guys. So I didn't really participate much in I guess you want to call it the happy hour from 6 to 7, where the fans are kind of mingling around. And I was in a back room where the other media members were, which was cool. It was just me and my daughter. She was videotaping the interviews for me. And I got to speak with both coaches, Malzahn and Dawkins, and Terry Mohajir. I was just kind of hanging out there for the most part because actually Mohajir was a little late to the thing. So he had me waiting for a few minutes. But overall, the event was pretty cool. So I did that. Then I walked over to the other room. I met a couple people that actually listened to the show, which was cool. And of course, we saw Paul Jones and Trina. Those guys were great. They bought me a beer, hung out, ordered some food, watched the show. Mark Daniels hosted it, and got to hear the coaches speak again. So that was fun. I got to hang out with UCF Probs. He came over and hung out at our table for a little while. So overall, very fun event. No complaints at all. So I love it every time they come down here. I've been to a few of these. The first one I ever went to was back with George O'Leary was the coach, and it wasn't Tribble. It was who was the AD before Tribble? Or maybe it was Tribble. It was you know when it was? It was when we did that unite and get the patch thing that we were trying to push the patch. I think it was 2011. So maybe it was Tribble. So that was the first one I ever went to. I went to the one with Scott Frost's first year. I went to Heupel's first year, and now I got to do this one. The last two, being a part of the media, I guess you'd call it. I get to do my own interviews. So overall, very fun event.
Two more stops on the Charge On tour. They're going to be out and about more in the Central Florida area. So you should look up those events. To Mike's point, a really good time. You'll get to hear some in-depth stuff. You get to maybe have a couple of cold ones, mingle with the coaches. So it should be a fun time. But we're glad Mike could could travel down there as well. So before we get into any of the fun stuff, you guys have some homework. If you're not doing it already, make sure you're subscribing to all the different areas in which you could subscribe to us. Social media, that's at Sons of UCF pretty much everywhere: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. You can follow Mike at UCF Mike 1. Make sure you bookmark our website, twonightsmedia.com. Spoiler alert, Mike, I've been working on a little article. Here's the thing. We're not writers. I'm not a writer by trade. Mike's not a writer. So when neither one of us have the time to do a podcast, let alone also write some stuff. But I've been working on an article. Maybe we'll get it out sometime this week. So we'll have some fresh content for you there. All of our stuff's archived. So bookmark 2 Nights Media. And wherever you're listening to this podcast, which, by the way, is available in a lot of different places, make sure you subscribe, rate, review. 5 stars would be fantastic. If you think we've done a good job, we always appreciate the kudos. So we appreciate you doing that. And those are really all the homework assignments you need to do, Mike. And to just to do all that, here's what you're going to get out of it. Let's start with some football. We'll run the Gus Malzahn combo in a second. But obviously, one of the bigger pieces of news that broke after our show aired last week, Mike, was the transfer of one Jordan Johnson. No, not that guy, not the former UCF offensive lineman. This guy is a former 5-star recruit. I guess he still is a 5-star recruit. Went to Notre Dame for 1 season. Decided that things just weren't working out after not playing a whole bunch. Only saw action in 2 games with 0 catches and put his name in the portal. This guy was wanted by pretty much everybody, Mike. But Jordan Johnson announced on Twitter, social media, that he's taking his talents down to UCF. Jordan Johnson, 5-star recruit, coming to UCF. Mike, your thoughts?
I'm very excited about this, just like everybody else in UCF land. The guy didn't play much at all for Notre Dame. He got into 2 games, no stats, so no catches, no yards, nothing like that. But the 5 stars is what catches your eye. And obviously he was recruited by Malzahn because his top offers were from Auburn, Texas, Ohio State, and Missouri. That tells you all you need to know. That those are some big-time schools going after this guy. He ended up at Notre Dame. And the thing I like about him, he's got some size to him, 6'2", which is a nice compliment to some of our shorter, faster guys like Jalen Robinson and Ryan O'Keefe. So that's something we need on the outside. And let's face it, we lost 3 wide receivers to the draft this year. So we're going to need to replenish that position. I know we've brought in some other guys, and guys like Brandon Johnson, Nate Craig Myers, but you can't count on hitting 1 for 1, 2 for 2. So the more guys we put in that position, 3, 4 transfers in, the better chance we have of having somebody that's going to come in and make an impact this year.
Yeah, and there's the thing. We don't really know what we're getting in Jordan Johnson. To your point, he saw – here's his stat line. I actually have it pulled up here. Let me pull it up really quickly again. His Notre Dame resume reads 26 snaps, 0 catches, and a spring game with 1 target. That's its entire stat line at Notre Dame. The only 2 games he played, the 26 snaps, I think a lot of them were offensive, a lot were on special teams. There was some talk that academically he wasn't necessarily where he needed to be and spend some time. There was some talk that maybe his skills weren't exactly as good as touted, and he was still kind of raw from that perspective. So you don't really know what you're getting. Obviously, for all the the other schools who wanted him coming out of high school in St. Louis and the schools who wanted him out of Notre Dame, there's enough talent there to make you excited. So we don't really know what we're getting, but I think it signals a lot of things, right? When you've got a 5-star receiver who allegedly was down to UCF in Florida as his last 2 options and chooses UCF, do you think that signals something, Mike? Do you think other recruits out there are seeing that, hearing that? Other transfer portal guys are like, wow, UCF, look at they're building something there. Do you think this has that sort of long-lasting impact, or do you just take this as one transaction kind of in a moment in time?
Well, that's the hope. That's what everybody's thinking is going to happen. I don't know if I buy into that as much. I mean, kids make their own decisions for whatever reasons, whether they're moving closer to home or whatever it is. It's nice to win a battle against the Gators. I like to see that. I think this has more to do with his relationship that he already had with Gus Malzahn. Like I mentioned before, he was recruited at Auburn, so there's something there already. If Malzahn had never spoken to this kid before, I don't know how successful he'd been in talking him in to come to UCF. So, but it'd be great if you see the first 5-star to come over, and we get 3, 4 more 5 stars. I mean, we were kind of joking at the beginning when Malzahn came in and said, how many 5 stars can this guy bring in? I think a lot of people thought we wouldn't bring any, or we'd be lucky to have 1, and we got 1 right away. I think maybe a full recruiting cycle under Malzahn next year, we may see a few 5 stars.
Yeah, I think, the reality is, you can't determine what high school and college age kids are going to do, right? So does this mean that everybody out there is like, oh, now we can go to UCF because a 5-star went there? Probably not. But the more that you see players of his caliber decide to come to UCF, and especially if this kid has a great year and is able to, have good stats and maybe, continue to upgrade his potential and maybe become an NFL prospect kind of guy, I think that certainly bodes well. But you're not going to know that for 2-3 years down the road. So I think it's good to have UCF's name sort of in the mix. But ultimately, we don't know what he'll end up being. We don't know how his UCF tenure will work out. But the fact that we're on his radar and that we ultimately ended up where we signed is good news. I think the one thing that no one quite knows the answer to, Mike, is how the heck we're affording all these transfers, because it didn't seem like we had a lot of scholarships, but we're taking a bunch of guys off the transfer portal. I don't know if I've understood or seen exactly how that's possible and what that means for future years. But Gus certainly pounding the transfer portal hard, because this week as well, Mike, at least on social media, we've seen 2 guys announcing that they are now officially enrolled at UCF. That's Mark Anthony Richards, the running back, and your new favorite player, the Big Cat, is prowling around campus now, Mike. There's a social media post that he's at UCF. So the transfers are now starting to arrive. And I assume they'll soon begin the summer conditioning program, whatever that looks like at UCF. But the portal is certainly giveth to UCF right now.
The Big Cat, you already know he's my favorite. He's even tweeting out stuff to get UCF fans excited too, talking about how he watched that War on I-4 Black Friday game. Almost every day he watches it, and he gets hyped up by watching the crowd in that game. We got him. You mentioned Mark Anthony Richards. Ricky Barber, let's not forget, Isaiah Bowser, Hercule Latu from BYU, the linebacker. There's been a bunch of them. Now, does this mean we can't sign as many kids in recruiting next year? Maybe, but if some of these guys are going to be here for a few years. I think Ricky Barber's got a few years left. Mark Anthony Richards got a few years, so it may be worth it to sign some of these guys. And also, we have had a few guys transfer out to open up spots too. Yep. Lesser names, guys. Remember, I told you I had never even heard of some of these guys.
That's true.
So some of those guys leave, and we're filling them in with 5-star guys and impact players, SEC defensive players. I'll take that every day of the week.
What do you think this does? I mean, do you foresee any issue? And again, I don't be the stir the pot guy here, right? But obviously there's a bunch of kids who were, let's look at receivers for right now, right? Like a bunch of kids who are looking for the opportunity to step up. And then, in this offseason, 3 transfer receivers have come in, first with Brandon Johnson, then Craig Nate Myers, his name is, and now Jordan Johnson. So 3 receivers have transferred in. Do you think this causes any sort of potential down the road rift or issues with the current guys? I mean, how do you think this is playing for those guys who have been here, who are fighting and working? Running back, same thing. Now we brought in 2 running backs this offseason. Do you see any negative side of some of this transfer portal stuff, and particularly for guys who have previous connections to the coaching staff?
Yeah, there's potential for that. You always hear when coaching staffs change, this guy was a Heupel guy. No, this guy's a Malzahn guy. Or Malzahn didn't bring him in, so he's going to give this other guy a better look. It's possible. But you also see times you bring a transfer in and for whatever reason, it doesn't work out. Brendan Wimbush came in. He was Heupel's guy to bring in here, and he was supposed to be the starting quarterback, and he didn't win the job. And I think the coach is going to make the best decision for the football team. Just because he brought you in here and he thinks you can contribute, and he finds out somebody else on this roster that's already been here is better than you, I think he's going to start that guy. So it always is there for discussion where I can see how it can cause a little rift among the team, but if everybody sees that the best guy is playing and he's not playing favorites with anybody, then I don't think it should be a problem.
Oh, and I forgot about Titus too. Titus, the 4-star receiver out of Hawaii, he's also adding to that mix too. So he's not even on campus yet. So we got a ton of weapons on the offensive side. But I'm glad to see the defensive side continues to find some guys. Mike, we inked a linebacker from Kennesaw State. He's a grad transfer, so he's only got the 1 year left of eligibility, a position that we had some need in, that we need some depth in. So we bring in sort of an FCS level guy to play linebacker, Mike. But I think on the defensive side, particularly in that position, never too early to get some depth.
Yeah, those are the positions that when you look at the depth chart, linebacker and the defensive backs are the spots where I'm most concerned about. We look like we filled in that defensive line pretty nicely now, adding Big Cat and Ricky Barber to go along with Tremont Morris-Brash and Clea Davis. The defensive line is looking stout, and now we have some depth because now you got guys like Montalvo and Celiscar as backups. So that's nice. But the defensive backs who looked a little shaky there towards the end of the year, plus we lose guys like Richie Grant and, obviously Tate Galvin was out the year before. But
Aaron Robinson.
And Aaron Robinson. There you go. 3 more guys to the NFL at a position. That's the position I'm most concerned about in the linebackers, where we haven't had any really standout linebackers. And you want to go back to, I guess you could say Nate Evans, but you want to say maybe back to like Terrence Plummer, the guy that's a true leader of the whole defense type of thing. Best player on the field on defense.
Shaquem Griffin
Shaquem
Griffin would like a word with you.
All right. Okay, I forgot about Shaquem.
Yeah, he'd like a word with you. The linebacker's name is Bryson Armstrong, by the way. Didn't provide his name, but he's one of the 2 interesting guys. The other name that's on the transfer list that I'm dying to see what we have is Riker Casey, the kicker. Because obviously we've seen the Obarski struggle. So overall, Gus and the guys are continuing to put some guys in uniforms and some guys on the field. We don't quite yet know what we have there. We don't quite yet know what that means for the team yet. But overall, it looks like we're definitely on board. And your boy Big Cat was at Lazy Moon Pizza, by the way, Mike. I know that's gotta be near and dear to your heart in the off-season conditioning program.
I don't know if Lazy Moon was around when we were there.
I don't think it was. It's a big slice at Lazy Moon. I wonder how many slices the Big Cat can take down.
Well, who was it? What was the guy that told us he only ate 3 tacos and we didn't believe it just a couple weeks ago? I don't believe Big Cat will only eat 1 or 2 slices. He's got to be like a 4 or 5 slice guy. Yeah, I don't care how big the slice is.
Yeah, EJ Dunston. There's no way. I need an integrity check on those 3 tacos. But all right, so let's get to the moment you've been waiting for, Mike. Do you want to set up anything with this Gus Malzahn interview before we roll the audio tape?
Gus was a nice guy. He's a head coach, and he's trying not to say anything to get himself in trouble. Probably no bulletin board stuff. Where I tried to lead him maybe a couple times, and he dodged them, like he was in the Matrix. But he did give me some time. He did get into some stuff, and I know you've all been waiting for it. The tank top question. The tank top question is in there. He did answer it. We did go into it in depth about it, and I even brought it up again towards the end. You tell me if you think there's a possibility he's going to wear that tank top. Listen to the interview and get back to me, because I'm not saying that he said he would, but I'm not saying that he said he did it. He wouldn't.
Well, I don't think I could set it up any better than that. Let's catch up then with head coach Gus Malzahn talking to UCF Mike at the Charge On Tour.
This is UCF Mike here at the Charge On Tour in Fort Lauderdale at the Funky Buddha. I have UCF head coach Gus Malzahn here with me. Coach, how are you?
Hey, doing great. Hey, looking forward to this event.
How are you liking Orlando so far? Have you guys settled in nicely?
We have. Everything happened real quick. Obviously, we hired the staff. We went through spring, which went very well. Now we're just getting ready for recruiting and able to catch our breath a little bit. But I've really enjoyed Orlando so far and really enjoyed the people, too. It's been a lot of fun.
They often say a football team takes on the personality of the head coach. What do you want the identity of this football team to be this year?
Well, I want us to have an edge. I want us to play with an edge. I want us to be disciplined. I want us to play harder than anybody in the country and be efficient, and play to our strengths. And, of course, I'm a former high school football coach and used to kind of building around our strengths, specifically our quarterback. And we feel like we got a real special guy in Dylan, and he was a real blessing to be around this spring and very impressive with not just his accuracy, but just his leadership, his pocket awareness. It's going to be a lot of fun next year on offense.
I don't think we're breaking any news when we say Dylan's going to be the starter going into the season. But we all know you're only one play away from having to put that next guy in. How comfortable are you with the other guys on this roster, and who impressed you the most over the spring?
Yeah, I tell you what, I was impressed with really all 3 of the other scholarship quarterbacks. And, we went live, which I don't know another program in the country that let their quarterbacks go live in the spring. But I wanted to evaluate the guys. I wanted to see what they could do under fire, how they responded to pressure, who could create. And it was really good. It gave us great information. But I will tell you this, we're going to have some quality depth at that position. It'll be a dogfight in fall camp to kind of see the order. But, I was overall, I was impressed with all 3 of them.
I know you've been vocal about supporting the players with the new name, image, and likeness rules that are coming into effect. But as a head coach, do you worry at all that this is going to cause maybe some more individualism among the players and maybe them putting themselves ahead of the team?
No, that won't be a problem at all. We've got a close close team. We're gonna be there to support and promote our players. It's a new age in college football, and so we're going to be behind that. It won't affect our team at all. We'll be a very close team. We'll be a true team with a capital T instead of I, and I don't have any problem or worry about that one bit.
All right, I know it's not the Iron Bowl. It doesn't have the history of the Iron Bowl, but the rivalry we've developed with South Florida, it's gotten pretty intense over the last few years. The series is tied 6-6 right now, and there is a day in 2007 where they beat us up 64-12. A lot of Knight fans haven't forgot about that. I know I haven't. We want revenge for that day. Can you promise us, if you get the opportunity, you will not take your foot off the gas in those rivalry games and score as many points as possible?
Well, I mean, I'm just coming to this thing new, and obviously I've heard it's a great rivalry. I'm looking forward to being a part. Like you said, I've been a part of the Iron Bowl, and that was a special deal. And there's nothing like the first time of kind of understanding everything. But, no matter who we're playing, I mean, we're going to play to win, and we'll be aggressive.
Let's just say everything goes to plan this year. We win all our games, but we get left out of the college football playoff. We go, let's say, to the Peach Bowl, and we beat the runner-up in the SEC, and we finish the season as the only undefeated team in the country. Are you then willing to declare us national champions?
Yeah, you're asking some real interesting questions for the first time. Hey, we'll see where it goes. I mean, obviously, if you run the table, you're one of the best teams in college football. And, me personally, in 2017, I'd have loved to have seen that Alabama UCF game. I think everybody would. And hopefully here in the near future, maybe we can play them in a non-conference kickoff classic or something like that and try to settle it.
It seems this year, obviously, you've come in and hit the transfer portal pretty hard. Is that more of a first-year thing? You didn't have a chance to recruit before you got here, or is this just the future of college football now with the transfer portal? We got to be ready to add 10 guys every year.
The transfer portal has changed everything. I mean, it's a game changer, the way people recruit. This will be a very attractive place for transfers to come, to be, and you kind of see that already happening. But also, we're going to go after the best high school players that we can. And we got a whole lot around Orlando and, of course, obviously down here in the state of Florida. And so that's the way we'll build it.
All right, let's get to some serious stuff now. Your game day attire. I know you've been known to wear the sweater vest, but you've been here in Florida now for a little while. It gets pretty hot.
Yeah.
Are you willing maybe to trade that in for maybe a tank top and flip-flops on the sideline?
I don't know. We're still working on exactly what I'm going to wear, but I think it's safe to say there won't be any sweater vests, specifically in September, or October, over here.
The sweater vest is kind of like a tank top. If you don't put a shirt under it, then it's about the same purpose, right?
Yeah.
How about shorts? Is that a possibility?
Yeah, I'm pretty traditional. I doubt I'm going to wear shorts, on game day.
All right. I know you just played in the Peach Bowl golf tournament.
Yeah.
How'd you shoot?
I did okay. We didn't win, so obviously weren't happy, but, I had a good time. It's such a great event. And Gary Stokin heads the Peach Bowl up, and I've been blessed to go to it, I guess, the last 8 or 9 years, and just a super event, and that's a great bowl.
Did you at least beat Dan Mullen and Manny Diaz to claim the title as Florida best golfer and head coach?
Yeah, I'm not for sure. I don't even know how it lined up. I don't think any of us won it, but I do know Manny's team was right in the middle of it towards the end.
All right, Coach, we just wrap things up on our show, usually with some rapid-fire questions. It has nothing to do with UCF, maybe just to get to know you. What is your stance on this cryptocurrency? Do you think this is the money of the future, or is this just a big Ponzi scheme?
You know what? I don't really get into that world too much, so I probably can't give too good of an answer on that one.
What's your favorite place to go on vacation?
Probably our lake house. I'm getting a little older. We got a lake house about an hour outside of Auburn. And the girls show up, and it's pretty peaceful. Nobody really jacks with you, so it's always fun to go there and relax. What's your favorite sport besides football? Wow, that's a hard one too. I mean, I love basketball. I love baseball. So it's a toss-up. Did you have any teams you rooted for as a kid growing up? What were your big teams? I was born in Dallas, so I grew up a Dallas Cowboy fan back in the day. Now I've got players just about every NFL team, so I can't root for a team. But back in the day, I was a big Cowboy fan. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm a Giants fan, so that's tough.
All right, you had to pick one, Al Pacino or Robert De Niro.
I like them both.
You got to give me one. Pick one.
Al Pacino.
All right, Scarface. Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars, that's pretty easy.
And sweater vest or tank top?
I'm going to wear a sweater vest, yeah. Now, it may change.
All right.
Okay, but I'm going to say sweater vest right now.
Coach, thank you so much. I appreciate the time. Wish you the best of luck. I can't wait to see the team on the field this year, and good luck to you. Charge on, go Knights.
All right, charge on. This is UCF head football coach Gus Malzahn, and you should listen to the Sons of UCF like your hair is on fire. Go Knights and charge on.
All right, that was it, the official unveiling of two new things. You heard the Gus Malzahn interview and the new Gus Malzahn sounder. That's right, Mike got sounders as well. Long Gone will be the announcer girl. For those of you who remember the announcer girl, that you must go way back. Maybe we need to make T-shirts. What happened to the announcer girl? But I've been replaced with a Gus Malzahn sounder, of which there are maybe several more you'll hear in future shows, and we may not be done with the sounders, Mike. But there it is, Gus Malzahn. You said it perfectly in the setup. He's a coach, and he talks like a coach. And he answers questions like a coach. You asked him about, backup quarterbacks, and he eventually said all of them. He didn't really separate anybody out there. He talked a little bit about, what his philosophy was on certain things, but he didn't give you too much. So what you expect out of a coach, but it was good to see him let his hair down a little bit towards the end there with the rapid fire stuff and the tank top sweater vest questions. My favorite part though is when he looked you dead in the face and goes, "You have some interesting questions." I think that summed up the entire conversation.
Yeah, that was right after I asked him about the claiming a national championship, which he still has not done, and it looks like he is never going to do. Mm-hmm. He's never going to say that UCF was national champions in 2017. Didn't say that he would claim a national championship, even if we're the only undefeated team this year. So I think we know his stance on that now. But overall, nice time talking to Coach. He did say at the end, he says he's going to go with a sweater vest, but that may change. He did say that may change. It may go to the tank top. So you never know. If you see Gus walking around the sidelines with a tank top, you're welcome. Okay, because that's all mine. But and the sounders, that's cool too. That was the biggest thing that upset me when Heupel and Danny White left. Is we lost those sounders. We couldn't use them anymore. So now we've got something to fill in. Now we've got Malzahn ones. We got Mohajir ones. That's huge for our show.
Yeah, I think, listen, the national championship thing, I think Gus is just in a position where he's not going to answer that question. I mean, I think, one, it tells you how he thinks about it, right? Two, there's probably still a little bit of salt in the wound from being on the other side of that fence. But maybe at least we get it to rest it to bed once and for all. I think Brandon Helwig asked him at his opening press conference, and he kind of dodged it. I think you asked him there pretty directly, and he kind of dodged it again. I think he's just not answered that question. He's just done with it. Which is fine. I think it's fine for him to be done with it. But overall, I mean, a good coach speak interview, a good conversation down the end there. The only really competitive side you saw is when you asked him what he shot in the golf course. I mean, that seemed to be the part where he kind of livened up the most, and he was probably ready to break down a short game a little bit more than he was kind of his third down play calling.
Yeah, and the one that I kind of wanted to get a little more out of him was the question about the cows, and he wouldn't mind just keeping his foot on the gas in that game. I think he could have gave us a little bit without giving bulletin board material. He was playing it safe on that one. And obviously he has no interest in cryptocurrency, so I got nothing out of him on that.
Yeah, that one kind of fizzled a little bit. Yeah, the cows one, I guess that was, you and I were talking post-interview when after you'd sent the sounds and we were kind of texting back and forth. The cows one was the one, if I'm going to be honest for just a second here, that was a layup. I mean, you threw him like a LeBron James ask a lob at the rim. And all he had to do was just go, we're always going to, every time we play a rival, we're not going to show no mercy, right? That's all he had to say there. And that would have been a two-handed, reverse jam. The crowd would have gone wild, and it would have been great. I know that coaches don't ever like to give, bulletin board material and all that good stuff. But that one was a layup. I feel like he could have done a little bit more with that. I understand that we wanted him and you wanted him to say, hey, you know what? 74-12, book it next year, right? And we all would have gone wild and had a good time with it. But the odds of him saying that were going to be pretty low. But he could have done a little bit more. If I'm going to nitpick, could have used a little bit more oomph, a little bit more boom on that one.
Yeah, maybe he's saving it for a post game on that one after he does it. Maybe he's one of those guys, doesn't want to say anything beforehand. Maybe afterwards he'll give us something. Who was the coach? I don't remember his name. That when asked why he went for 2 against the rival, he said because he couldn't go for 3 in a blowout.
Yeah,
that's what we need. We need something like that post game after he beats these guys like 72-3.
Yeah, again, overall, good to hear from Gus and kind of see him let his hair down just a little bit. And I know it was cool for you to get some FaceTime, some one-on-one with him. Again, the videos will be posted soon to Two Nights Media and our YouTube page. If you haven't seen those already, we'll get some of those out there for you, so you can take a look at the full videotape version, same as the audio tape version. But just a little bit more intimate. You can kind of see Gus's expression as Mike has some questions, which I think is worth the price of admission alone, Mike. And this would have been a great night, by the way, if you had, if you had shaken Gus's hand and walked away, and then got in your car and drove home. It'd have been a fantastic night. But you decided not to stop there, Mike, because you went right on over. And then you found our head men's basketball coach. That is one Mr. Johnny Dawkins. And the UCF basketball program's been in the news a little bit lately as well. I think you touch on it in the conversation, but we see a flux of changes on the UCF roster, the latest of which is a pickup from UNLV. I think he's actually going to end up being a grad transfer. I think he played for most of his time at UNLV. He's from the Orlando area. He averaged 8.9 points and 7.4 rebounds as a junior. And I'm going to try to say his name, Mike. I figured out a pronunciation. So I think his name is She Mbake Yong. Is his name. I think I have some of that right. And he's a big guy coming to UCF, which is helpful because we lost Moses Bull officially today. He transferred out of UCF. I think he went to Milwaukee is where he ended up going. So again, the UCF roster changes continue. But Mike, Dawkins once again hits the portal and comes in with a big man.
Well, you're correct. He does have 1 year of eligibility left. He's from Melbourne, so he's coming home. He is using this extra COVID year that was given to everybody to come home and play for a year. He had offers from Florida State and Utah to go play for this last year, chose UCF, which says a lot because, Florida State is a good basketball program. Utah is a good basketball program. Decides to come play for Johnny, and it's exactly what we need, somebody with size, 6'11", another guy from Senegal. And that worked out pretty well for us the last time when we had Taco Fall. So it's a big pickup for us, a nice addition to the team. He was the team captain at UNLV, averaged 8.9 points per game, 7.4 rebounds, shot 60% from the field. So it seems like a very solid pickup, somebody that's going to come in first year and give us exactly what we need in the middle. If there's any concern, I guess it's his free throw shooting, which is a concern basically for every big man nowadays. I think he only shoots 50% from the line, but maybe we can improve on that a little bit. Other than that, seems like a good pickup. And no, I'm not going to try to pronounce his name like you did.
Shia Mbake Jong. So it also helps too. I mean, you forget last year we had true freshman Jamil Reynolds, who I think developed pretty nicely down the stretch, Mike. So yeah, if you add in Jong and you add in I don't know why I'm saying it like it's a different name, and add in Reynolds. I mean, that's a formidable maybe 1-2 punch in the low post, which UCF hasn't had in a while. You throw in C.J. Walker, assuming he comes back to UCF right now. He's quote-unquote declared for the draft, but I don't think he signed an agent. So at his height with some of his stuff, I know he played the 4 a lot last year, so you add C.J. Walker down there. And, Sean Mobley, whatever minutes you can get out of him, I think he was up and down last year. Maybe that helps out from the front court standpoint. In the back court, I mean, we're loaded with guys who can play. Tony Johnson, Isaiah Adams, Darren Green, Dre Fuller, Darius Johnson. And then we got the 2 new guys, PJ Edwards and Time Freeman. Is that what we said the last time? T-Y-E-M?
I don't know if it was Taim or Taim or
Taim.
I don't think we ever got confirmation.
And then Xavier Rhodes, and don't forget Darius Perry still floating out there potentially. So the roster's shaking up. Again, this seems like the thing with Johnny Dawkins, and I know we'll get into it a little bit here, but he's had a couple of seasons where we feel like we have some talent, we feel like we have the opportunity to break through, and then something just gives. If it's an injury, if it's usually an injury, if it's an academic thing, a guy doesn't blossom like we thought they would. We just haven't seemed to be able to put it all together yet, save for maybe 1 or 1.5 seasons under Johnny. You got to wonder, the talent, you see it on the roster this year. We lost Brendan Mahan. I know that's going to be talked about a little bit in your conversation with Johnny. It seems like you want no part of answering that, by the way. But, spoiler alert, he didn't rule out him coming back either, which is maybe what you're supposed to do as a coach, but he didn't out and out just say, hey, see you later, Brendan Mahan. So you got to hope, Mike, with this roster, it seems like if we can keep it together, UCF has an opportunity to make some noise next year. Would you agree with that?
Well, the key is staying healthy, and that's been the thing that's hurt us the last few years. And if we can keep a full roster healthy, obviously that's almost impossible to do. But you want to limit the injuries and not have season-long injuries. Like Tony Johnson got hurt in the very first game of the year, and he was out for the whole season.
He got hurt in the layup line at halftime. I mean, that's literally how bad that was for us.
Right. A few years ago, even with BJ Taylor and Taco, we couldn't get all those guys on the court at the same time for like 3 seasons. Until finally at the very end, when we made it to the big dance and finally we started clicking, and then it was over. So that's what we need, is to have the time for these guys to develop together, grow throughout the season, and just keep improving. It's possible this team can do something. We have talent. Now let's go out and see it. We've won big games. We won a game at Florida State last year. Florida State's a very good team. And we won at Florida State. And that's a place where not many teams go in and win. And we looked very good. And even the game against Houston early in the year. Houston, we saw how good they were. We hung right with them early in that season. And things just kind of got away from us later in the year. So the possibilities are endless with this team. I think we can make it back to the big dance. And that's something when Johnny Dawkins was speaking to the crowd at the Charge On Tour, he brought up the big dance himself. He says, this is a team that needs to get back there. And that drew a roar from the crowd. And that's all I'm hoping for, man. I want to make the big dance so bad. We've done it just a handful of times. We did it this time in 2018, 2019. And then you got to go back, 15 years before that? We did it a couple times, and another 10 years before that. We've only done it like 6 times in our career, or 5 times, I think, ever in school history. So it'd be nice to string a couple of those seasons together. And that's how you build the program. Once we start making the dance becoming a name every year, because let's face it, that's when kids are watching college basketball the most. You get your name out there, and then you start bringing in the big-time recruits.
Well, the man responsible for that, obviously, is Coach Dawkins. And, again, you had a chance to sit down one-on-one with him. I thought it's a really good conversation. You guys talked a lot about the season, some of his expectations, sort of coaching today and what that looks like. You get a little bit into the new conference schedule, how he feels about that, Mike. But what were your highlights? What were the most important things from your standpoint in your time with Coach Dawkins?
Yeah, you mentioned the Mahan thing. Didn't seem like he wanted to say that he was or wasn't coming back. He left that door open. I kind of, the rapid fires, I tried to get him on a couple. He wouldn't even answer some of the rapid fires, but the last couple he did. So he seemed like, another head coach that is careful around media, especially media guys you don't know, have never seen before. You see me pop up. Who's this Huckleberry coming in and asking these weird questions? Should I trust this guy? Where is he putting out this interview at? So I can kind of see them being a little guarded around me. But overall, very nice. We got to talk about Taco a little bit. We talked about his son, which was cool. Aubrey, who having a professional career now. So overall, a nice time with Coach Dawkins too.
Well, you'll hear the fear in Coach Dawkins' voice as he sits down with UCF Mike live from the Charge On Tour.
We're here at the Funky Buddha in Fort Lauderdale for the Charge On Tour. I got basketball coach Johnny Dawkins with me. Coach, how you doing so far?
I'm doing fine.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for giving me some time tonight. Coach, this past season, we got off to a pretty good start. We got the win at Auburn at home. We got the win against Cincinnati at home. We go to FSU and win a very tough game where not many people win. And then the COVID break comes. How much do you attribute kind of the downside of the season from the COVID break that we had to take?
Well, it was a challenging season, all in all. I mean, probably the most challenging season I had as a coach. And largely because of COVID. Like you said, we got off to a good start. And then just the disruptions, the loss of continuity that we had established, all those plays a part in your overall consistency. And it took us a while to kind of get reorganized.
The one thing that drove me nuts, and I'm sure you as a coach too, was the turnovers. And it seemed like that was our problem almost the whole year. I know you guys are working on it, but what do you attribute to the turnovers? Was it just a lack of, we didn't have a true point guard, we had one true point guard? Was it just the continuity of the season? What was it?
Well, I think the lack of continuity, when you bring a lot of new pieces in, which we did, you have to establish chemistry and continuity, and we weren't able to do that in large part because just the inconsistency of practices, inconsistency of games, not sure if you're going to play games, due to the pandemic. So I think that played a factor in us, not taking care of the ball as well as I think we can.
This year it just came out that the AAC is going back to an 18-game league schedule. We've been playing 20 league games. Do you have a preference either way? Does it make a difference to you?
I just like to compete. I'm a proponent of the round robin, so I like to see us play every team twice. I think it's easier to determine who a true champion is as opposed to maybe some team missed a couple games against opponents and some other teams played some more difficult opponents. So I think this way everyone plays everyone twice and you kind of know who your champion is. So that's my preference, but I do understand playing an 18-game season allows us to play some more preseason games against opponents outside of our league, which also can be beneficial.
The last couple of years, we've seen a bunch of guys declare themselves eligible for the NBA draft. Now, I know a lot of that is they want to get an evaluation on themselves, but for you as a coach, it seems like when they make the statement and declare themselves eligible, they make it sound like they're not returning. Do you have to prepare as if they're not returning, or how do you approach that?
Absolutely. There's a lot of uncertainty in our game right now with that, as well as the transfer portal, and you just have to be prepared for anything. And so, we have to prepare as if these young men will stay in the draft. We'll keep staying in touch with them and in contact and making sure we kind of understand where they are at different points of the process. But you can't get caught by surprise because then it becomes difficult finding that replacement player for you.
You mentioned the transfer portal. Just recently it was announced Brandon Mahan has entered the transfer portal. Did that come as a surprise to you? Have you been in contact with Brandon? Did he give you any reasons as to why he made that decision?
Well, absolutely. Definitely have spoken to Brandon, but the thing that you have to understand nowadays, you can do a lot with the portal for young players. That's their freedom of movement, their rights to be able to do that. So, the main thing is to keep your options open. I'm sure he's entertaining different programs, and we'll see what happens. But it doesn't mean that the young person can't come back to here. If we have a scholarship available, he could just as easily come back to us as he could go somewhere else. So it just opens up more options for young people to explore, what they want to do.
Our guy Taco Fall, he's been getting some time in the NBA. Just the other night, he came in for a few minutes, scores a couple points. Seems like he gets 4 blocks every time he's out there. He got 4 blocks in 5 minutes the other night. But it seems like they're only bringing him in garbage time. Do you think he's ever going to get his shot to really show what he can do, or has the NBA game changed so much where a big man like him, it's a lot harder to break through?
Well, I've seen the game, make a lot of different turns. And so right now it's more fashionable to play small ball and undersized bigs and spread the floor, bigs that can shoot 3 ball and so forth. But I still think there's a need for a player like Taco, and I think the game is going to transition back towards that, as people start to realize just how dominant a player like that can be around the low post, how efficient he can be. And as you mentioned before, just what he did defensively. I went to the game in Orlando where he played the Magic, and he was phenomenal in the last 3 or 4 minutes of the game. Like I said, 4 blocks, got a field goal, grabbed a few rebounds. He impacted the game in his minutes. And that's all you can do is wait for your opportunity, be ready for it, and try to impact the game.
Your son Aubrey just recently joined the TBT tournament. Great opportunity to win a lot of money in that thing. How's he been? Is he excited for this? And we haven't really seen him much. How's he been doing the last couple of years?
Well, Aubrey's doing fine. He played last year in the G League. Had a good year in the G League. And then this year he went overseas and played. He wanted to go overseas and had to take that experience on. And he played in Germany. He's finishing the season up now. He's having a very good season for them. And then he'll come back here, of course, and he'll play in the TBT, which will be another good experience for him as well to keep competing, keep sharpening his skills. But he's having a good career. He's having a professional career. He's traveling, seeing the world, and he's competing at something he loves.
That last season you guys had together was pretty special, I know, for both of you. Did you know the whole year that was going to be it for him, or was the coach in you trying to recruit him back for that one more season?
Well, I always want what's best for our players, and that's my son or any player on my team. And so, the best thing for him at that point, he felt it was that it was time for him to move to the next level, and I was very supportive of that. That's just right. He had already graduated, so he fulfilled his obligations to us. Got his degree. He helped lead us to a phenomenal season, and so I was happy to support him in his next decision.
All right, just a couple quick rapid-fire questions when we wrap this up. Jordan or LeBron?
Jordan or LeBron. Of course, I'm an old-school guy, but I like them both.
You can't give me one?
No.
All right, then I don't know if you're going to answer this one, but Magic Johnson or Larry Bird?
Again, I'm pleading the fifth on that one as well. I like them both. I'm not going to sit here and go over the guys. Those are all great players. You're talking about four players, in my opinion, that four players are on Mount Rushmore of basketball. And so, when you're trying to decide between players like that, you're picking your preferences, but bottom line is you're talking about some of the greatest players to ever play our game, and I have respect for them all.
What's the best basketball movie of all time?
Best basketball movie of all time? Hoosiers.
That's a common answer. Mine is White Men Can't Jump.
That's a good movie also, though. I think it's underrated, but definitely a good movie.
Who's your favorite stand-up comedian?
Favorite stand-up comedian? Dave Chappelle.
All right, yeah, you can't go wrong with that one. He's one of the best. And you've traveled everywhere, all over the country, all over the world for basketball. What's your favorite city to visit for the food?
Wow, favorite city to visit for the food? I'm going to have to say right here, a Funky Buddha.
I don't know. Have you ate here yet?
I just did.
All right, Coach, thank you so much. I appreciate you giving me a few minutes. I love watching your teams play. And go Knights, charge on. I'm looking forward to another great few years with you.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot. I appreciate the time.
Thanks, Coach.
This is UCF Athletic Director Terry Mohajir, and in my spare time, when I'm not on TikTok, I'm listening to Adam and Mike on the Sons of UCF. Go Knights and charge on.
All right, there you have it, Coach Johnny Dawkins with UCF Mike. Again, a good conversation. The thing that struck me the most, Mike, is you met him and you spent some time with him. Is Johnny Dawkins the nicest human being in the world?
He's definitely right up there. If I brought my daughter with me, and she was filming the interviews, and I'm sorry if you watch some of the interviews, it's a little wobbly. Her arms got tired. She kind of drifted off on some of them. But when we got there, I walked over to Johnny. I was gonna do all these interviews standing up, like I did last time. And I told my daughter, like, maybe you want to stand on a chair, and this way you'll be at a better height. And it was his idea. He's like, how about we just sit down and she can stand? And he was concerned that she may fall off this chair. I said, you know what? That's a good idea, and it worked out better.
Johnny Dawkins out-parented you? Is that what happened?
He was completely right. I wasn't thinking properly. But, yeah, very nice guy, genuine guy. You can sense it right away from him. He's, as we've seen, more of a soft-spoken guy, but he'll give you honest answers. And some things he doesn't want to answer at all, which is fine, even though, give me a Jordan LeBron answer or a Magic Bird, right? What's that going to hurt? Are these guys going to get mad at him and not talk to him anymore if he picks the other one? Those I was a little surprised he didn't want to answer.
Yeah, I think that's just their years of media training and not answering those questions. I think the two things I thought were interesting were, one, just the update on Aubrey. He's a kid who we loved his time at UCF, but he got cut short by injuries a lot. And by the time he got on the court and had a really good year, he'd already been in college for 6-7 years at that point. And I know he's been playing in the G League. He's playing overseas, so it was cool to get that update, not from a former coach, but just from a dad, right? Just kind of, hey, how's your son doing? I thought that was cool because we don't really get to hear a lot about Aubrey. And then really just hearing him talk a little bit about sort of Taco and the NBA and where the game's going. People forget. Of Johnny Dawkins now, but he was an outstanding college player at Duke. He was one of those guys that helped put Duke on the map back in the mid maybe not back on the map in the mid 80s, and some of those teams had a really good NBA career as well. He was a guy that a lot of players wanted to be like, and so you forget all the basketball knowledge he has, all the things he's seen in the game. So it was cool to hear him it was almost like you guys were just talking ball, like, hey, what's going on with Taco, man? Why can't he get some more run in here? And him just kind of giving you some honest answers, but just seemed like the nicest guy in America. And here's the problem. I know for those of you who listen to the show regularly, Mike's outro of wishing Johnny well and always rooting for him, you may have been a little bit caught off guard because there have been times we've talked about Johnny's job status, but you sit down and talk to the guy, Mike, and you did. You were eyeball to eyeball with him. It's hard not to root for him, right? It's hard not to say, like, man, this is such a nice guy. Like, let's just win some games. We'll be all set here. And so I can see maybe why there's reluctance to make a change, because he seems like he's got such a good perspective and such a good positive figure for our school and for these young men to play for him. So it's hard to root against him. And I hope to heck that he's able to put it together this year and get us back to the big dance.
Well, don't ever confuse me maybe mentioning a coach on the hot seat for me not rooting for the guy. That's far from the case. I'm always rooting for our guys to do the best. I think anytime you have to change coaches, it sets the program back a little bit. Obviously, you have to rebuild. You have to reset the whole situation. I never want to see guys get let go. The only time I bring it up is when I don't see us maybe living up to the potential that I think that we should. And when you start out and you come in and win 20-plus games your first year and go to the NIT Final Four, and then you come back and you win another 20 games a couple years later and go to the big dance and win a game in the big dance. I mean, it just higher my expectations of the program. And then you come and back and you have two lesser seasons after that. I get upset. That's the only thing. It's not that I'm not rooting for Johnny. Trust me, if he stayed here for another 10 years and it's because he's winning a lot of games and we're going to the big dance and having a lot of success, I'd be the happiest guy in the world. I really think Johnny is one of the nicest guys I've ever met, just like we said before. So that's all I'm asking. He's hired my expectations. Now he's got to meet those expectations to keep me happy.
Well, if he doesn't, the guy that you talked to in the last conversation of this evening for us is going to be a guy who's going to have to make a tough decision. But luckily, he's probably not in that spot now, Mike. And probably my favorite conversation from the entire evening, I said this at the top of the show, was your chance to sit down with UCF Athletic Director Terry Mohajir, who obviously is in charge of building not just a great football program and not just a great basketball program, but a great overall athletics program at the university. And right now, Mike, he's been, while he inherited all of these teams, obviously, he has certainly done or been a part of a really good run here. Unfortunately, both the women's and men's tennis seasons, those two came to an end. The women's team losing in the tournament over the weekend, so the tennis team is now out. Baseball will be limping its way to the conference tournament here soon, and cross your fingers and say a prayer. We'll see how that goes. Obviously, the track and field team, we've had some individual winners and some events, Mike, but probably the team right now that probably all eyes are on from a UCF standpoint is the softball team. And as predicted by Eric Lopez on the Sons UCF Live, which airs Thursday night on social media, UCF will be going to the NCAA tournament. They have been seated in the Tallahassee region, and they will play on Friday at 2 p.m. on ESPN2, taking on the Auburn Tigers, which is rich with storylines in Tallahassee, playing Auburn. Some storylines there, Mike. First off, thoughts on softball going dancing?
It's very nice. It's been a little while for the softball team. Had a nice regular season, made it all the way to the championship game. I watched a lot of that game on Saturday, just coming back from my daughter's softball game where we completed our perfect season, the Llama-Corns 9-0. And then I sat down and I watched the softball game, and it was a fun game to watch. We took the lead. We were up 3-0. And just the Wichita State bats were just too much, man. They just dropped some bombs, 3 home runs. We ended up falling to those guys who given us a hard time this year. But the team is as good as it's been in a long time. Aaliyah White, I mean, can this girl pitch every single day? She pitches every game, it seems. Maybe getting a little tired there towards the end of the year. But she's going to have to regroup here now for this big tournament. Playing Auburn is fun. That's cool because of all the ties we've had with them. And we've had a lot of success against Auburn in all sports recently. We just swept them in baseball last year. We beat them in basketball this year, obviously the Peach Bowl game. So we're very familiar with that program. They haven't beat us in any meaningful sports in a while. So it's a cool first-round matchup for us. And then, of course, you got the ties in Tallahassee with Florida State. You got our boys Mackenzie Milton and Bam Moore over there. I would not be surprised at all to see either one of those guys at the softball games. You know that they support their schools, and then if you see UCF coming to town, I'm sure they'll be out there. What do you think? Does Mackenzie wear a FSU hat to that game, or
let's break out the reckless speculation machine. Here's what I think. Here's what I think is going to happen. This is just my guess. I have no inside information. Mackenzie will go to the game, but he'll have his mom with him. His mom will be able to get away with wearing UCF gear. Mackenzie will either have on some very minor FSU gear or nothing at all. But if he brings his mom, he's got cover. So I think he's going to want the cover. Mom goes to the game with him to cheer on the UCF because we know that she still roots for UCF. I've seen pictures of her on social media with her UCF stuff on. So I think Mackenzie gets a little cover from Mama Milton.
Now, it's possible that UCF and FSU do not even face each other in this thing.
That's correct.
If one of them loses in the first round and one of them wins, then they may not see each other at all.
Well, it's double elimination, just for people who don't know. It's double elimination. So if the UCF will play the winner of Florida State and the other team, which is Kennesaw State.
Right. So if we both win the first game, then it's on like Donkey Kong, and then we'll get to see what Mackenzie does. I think he'd go – I mean – he can't wear a UCF thing on FSU campus to a game that involves FSU. I just don't think he can do that. So either he'll wear nothing at all or he'll wear a Florida State hat. And by nothing at all, I'm not saying he's going naked. I think just UCF gear, no Florida State gear. But if I had a bet on it, he'd put on an FSU, like one of those FSU masks, over his face, kind of for COVID kind of thing.
I mean, Elo wanted reckless speculation, and there you have it. Mackenzie Milton naked. I think if he shows up to the UCF Auburn game, I think it's okay to wear a UCF item there. Because to your point, his school is not playing. I think he can get away with it there. But to your point, if Florida State's in the matchup, he's got to wear Florida State stuff. Or to your point, no discernible gear at all. The other question that's out there is, will our good buddy, now your good buddy, Gus Malzahn, make a trek up to Tallahassee for UCF to play Auburn in softball? And how do you think that? What do you think his rooting interest would look like for that one?
Well, it's the same deal. If he's going to that game, he's got to be going in black and gold. He's got to be supporting the Knights. That's his school now. But I would be shocked if he made the trip up there. Unless he's got some recruiting to do in the area and he's making a couple-day trip out of it, I don't see him going up there for it. But if he does, he better be wearing that black and gold, or else I'll have some issues with it. Maybe a black and gold tank top, perhaps. Perhaps he will, yeah.
Out of those two things, I think it's way more likely you see Mackenzie and or Bam Moore than you see Gus Malzahn, yes?
Yes. I think the betting odds are highly in favor of Mackenzie.
Well, again, Friday, 2 p.m. on ESPN2, Knights versus Auburn Tigers. So check that out again. Double elimination. So if things don't go our way that day, there are other options available. And obviously the winner of that regional will then advance on, and they'll play the winner of, what other region is it here? The Baton Rouge regional, which features 7th seed overall LSU. So still some postseason left. It's really kind of besides track and field, the only other squad out there right now with postseason at least looming. I think baseball, we can sort of say we know where that train's gonna go to, Mike. But the other sort of bigger athletic department news is, while talking to you, our very own intrepid reporter, UCF Mike, Terry Mohajir dropped a little scheduling nugget on you, which has now been circulating around social media that we were sharing with folks during the live show on Thursday, and then in some posts afterwards. Mohajir announcing that what appeared to sound like what he's referring to as a home and home has been signed with FAU. So UCF and FAU will travel down there to play them. They'll come back up to Orlando to play us. No word on the years. There have been some sleuths that have indicated potentially this is maybe a replacement game for an upcoming game. I don't want to divulge too much there because I'm not sure how solid any of that stuff is. And the people who are reporting it, I don't know if they're able to share that stuff. So I assume Mohajir will announce that specifically when he has a chance, Mike. But at least we do have some news on the scheduling front. And if I heard Mohajir correctly, and you'll hear it yourself, more to come hopefully soon.
That's right. I love the FAU series. For me, selfishly, it's the closest team to my house. It's about a 20-minute Uber from my house if I needed to. So it's perfect for me. And then going up to Orlando for that game, for them, it's good for both schools. It's good for recruiting for both schools. We get to come down here. They get to go up there. It works out for everybody. And like Terry says, we needed the games. And he needs to fill the schedule somehow. And I'd much rather play FAU and even FIU than Bethune-Cookman and schools like that. So I'm fine with the schedule. That's no problem. I would like to know which years it is. It's sounding like maybe 22 and 23, so in the near future. And I mean, I've got no problem with it. The other one he hinted at, he didn't give me much, but I'm thinking maybe he's holding on to this FAU one because it doesn't seem like it'd be that big of a splash, and putting it out there with whatever other news he's got coming for us.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I think any chance we have to beat Willie T and the bus driver down there, I think we always take that opportunity. So if we can beat him twice more, why not? And yeah, it makes a lot of sense from a local perspective. Obviously, UCF wants to recruit the West Palm area and schools down there pretty heavily. So getting into their backyard, letting some kids see them, maybe get to the game. Obviously, UCF can't really. I guess they could potentially figure some stuff out there, but probably not. But still, in their backyard, seeing the game. Hopefully, FAU finishes their stadium planning situation, because obviously last time UCF was there, they were underprepared for how they were going to get everybody into the stadium. Hopefully, that's all rectified. But yeah, a good local series never hurts. Obviously, we still have hopefully some quote unquote bigger name non-cons coming up. But I think, we'll get to the Mohajir interview now, Mike. I think my takeaway, a couple of things. One, just how gosh darn personable he was. I think we all, when the news hit that Danny White was leaving, and everyone, us included, you and I, we'd always said, hey, Heupel is what he is, but we can't lose the backbone, and that's Danny White. And then Danny White leaves, and it was like, oh, Christ, what's happening now? Sky was falling. We were hiring the Missouri guy for like a hot minute there, and people are losing their minds. And then this guy comes out of nowhere, and we're like, well, I don't even heard of this guy. What is it? Who is this guy? And then we start to dig in a little bit, and we find out more about him, Mike. But if you want to talk about a guy who can own a room, a guy who can talk the talk, a guy who seems very personable, very excitable, he comes across as all those things, Mike. I think while certainly Danny White was transcendent in what he did for UCF, I think Timo is going to have a really high ceiling here if he can pull some things off. I really enjoyed hearing the conversation. What were your key takeaways from your time with Timo?
Yeah, you nailed it. The guy makes you feel like he's your best friend. The minute you walk in, he made my daughter feel very comfortable. My daughter is very shy sometimes. I think I mentioned this on the live show. The cheerleaders were trying to come up to her and talk to her. She wasn't saying anything. He goes over and he gets her to talk right away. And he even talks to her during the interview a couple times. But yeah, very, very, very nice guy. I loved talking to him. It made me feel at home, made me feel like, I was actually a media member. It took me seriously and had some fun with it. So I can see why he got the job. I can see why he would walk into an interview and you could come out of there saying, this is the guy I want to represent my program. So I think this is the best of the three interviews just because he gave me a little bit more with some of his answers. I think you guys are going to really enjoy this one.
Well, let's not wait any longer. UCF Mike and Terry Mohajir.
All right, I'm at the Charge On Tour with new athletic director Terry Mohajir. Terry, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
Great. Thanks for giving me a few minutes today. Terry, in your introductory press conference, you mentioned how much you liked the Knights theme. Now, we know that UCF has been in contact with the space program, and there's a portion of our fan base that would like to see us switch to Citronauts. Yeah. How do you feel about the Citronaut as our secondary logo?
I love it. I think it's fantastic. I agree with it, especially with our heritage of how our university was built and keeping that space theme and with our proximity to the Kennedy. And so, you know what? I love it. I like Knights because of what Knights represent and what a Knight really is. And so, no, I think having both logos or having a secondary logo as a Citronaut is wonderful.
So you've been in town now for a couple months. I'm sure there's been a lot of questions about UCF scheduling the last few years. How soon can we expect Alabama or even the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to appear on the schedule?
Patriots. Tampa Bay's too good right now. But anyway, we're behind in scheduling, to be candid with you, and we're doing everything we can to get teams on the schedule. I think there's going to be some exciting news for our fans here in the next, few weeks, and hopefully it comes. I don't want to announce it because I don't know. I don't have a contract yet, so I always get a little leery about announcing anything without a contract. But I haven't got a commitment, and I think it'll be. I think it'll really help us for recruiting. It'll help that school, and we're excited about it. So we're still trying to get some games. We just signed a contract with FAU. We're going to go down there and play because we needed games, and it fits in well with our schedule that we could go on the road. And they'll come back in a few years, and it just happened to work out that way. We'll continue to burn up the phones, man.
We've seen UCF go undefeated 2 years in a row, get left out of the college football playoff. Last year we saw Cincinnati go undefeated, get left out of the playoff. You were on the CFP committee. You've been in the meetings.
Yes.
What does it take? Is there any chance a team from the American can get into the playoff the way it stands now at 4 teams?
Yeah, I think so. I think it depends on who you're playing. This year the American didn't play any non-conference games. And the reason why you see teams like Louisiana Lafayette and in Coastal Carolina, why you saw some of those teams move up quickly, they had out-of-conference matchups. And they beat Iowa State, and number 6 Iowa State. They beat Coastal Carolina, beat BYU, and you saw that trajectory of them moving up. And I think really at the end of the day, and this is just me personally, this is not as a committee member, I just think that I think the committee got it right. The top 4 teams were the top 4 teams. I think the 4 or 5 spot is always the most difficult. But whether you're undefeated or not doesn't necessarily mean that you're the most deserving.
Another thing you mentioned in your conference when you first took the job, you're willing to sell anything, whether it's the name on the locker or whatever it is. As we know, the name of the stadium is still up there. We don't have a naming partner. I know there's been a push on Twitter. Even Coach Malzahn's Twitter account tweeted out something to SpaceX. I'm sure you've been in contact with many companies. Can you promise us that the stadium will have a new name before opening day this year?
I cannot promise you that. I wish I could, because we can't give it away. It's got to be the right name, but we will be working hard to try to get that.
All right, you've had a couple months now on campus.
Not just the stadium. We have other stadiums, not just the football stadium, but we have other stadiums as well that we need some naming opportunities. And I really think the trajectory of our revenues will be our corporate play.
How about Sons of UCF Stadium? How much is it?
How much you want to give?
How much are you asking?
You think Emily could help pay for it? Lemonade stand? What do you think?
I'll go through her piggy bank when we get home, see how much she's got.
All right. Yeah, that's awesome.
So you've been on campus for a couple months.
Yeah.
You've evaluated the other facilities. Where do you think we need the most improvement?
We there's a lot of work to do on facilities, and it's just, it is what it is. We got the campus itself is wonderful. Our student athletes absolutely love campus. They love the school. But we got some work to do on some facilities, and we're doing some We're refreshing some of the facilities right now as we speak. Just some dated stuff, just normal stuff. And so we got some catching up to do.
You were a football coach yourself at Kansas for a few years, and back when Kansas was actually winning some games.
Yeah, we were good.
So
9th in the country.
How hard is it going to be for you to kind of stay out of Gus's ear? Are you going to try to get in on some of those meetings and the game plans?
No, I never get involved in the game plans, but I do meet with my coaches about, just review and just something. I'm just there as a person to talk to. Sometimes you can't always talk to your coaches, and I always wanted to be that ear for the head coach. So, he might have something he might run by me, not necessarily blocking and tackling or scheme or all that kind of stuff, just other stuff that might come up, and I do share what I observe, but it's not like meddling. I've done that with one of my head coaches. I usually meet with them on Sunday or Monday to discuss. And actually, for me, I learn a lot about the team, and I get asked questions like this. Just functionality, players, really good kids. I can be that another mouthpiece, another another promoter of the program when he says, hey, our right guard, for example, is fantastic. He's playing out his minors. Or our 3 technique he's off the charts, man. He's one of the best ones in the country, one of the best kids ever. Because I like learning that kind of stuff. I mean, you hear about, he didn't play as good, but I don't really share that stuff that much. It's really the positive stuff that I want to be that mouthpiece, an additional mouthpiece for the program.
But you are his boss, so if you told him we want to open the game with a flea flicker, he'd have to listen to you, right?
I would never do that. I would never do that. I've never have, and I've had a bunch of coaches, and I would never do that. And you know what? And if I told him to do that, I hope in this particular case that he would be insubordinate. So yes, I would never do that. So.
All right, I'm a season ticket holder. I sit in the black and gold cabana, 50-yard line.
Thank you.
A couple years ago, when the cabana first opened up, they used to have a deliver to your seat option. So I could order a beer or a hot dog. They'd have somebody deliver to my seat. The last couple years, they took that away.
Is that because of COVID related?
No, it's before COVID that they stopped doing that. I don't know. Maybe it just started getting too crowded in there. They didn't have enough. But selfishly, I'd love to see that get back. I hate missing any kind of plays because I need to go get a new hot dog.
I'll have to find out. That's the first I heard. That's the first. I've had a lot of suggestions and a lot of advice, and that was the first one I've heard. So we'll have to check that out. So it was a concierge. It was kind of a concierge type program, a VIP, where they would deliver stuff.
Right. Yeah. That's on my phone. I can type
Table
it in.
service,
Yeah. Exactly.
Right. Table service.
Right to the seat. It was
All right.
beautiful.
Yeah. Okay. I'll check it out.
All right. Yeah. My beer was there in 5 minutes. I loved it.
You don't miss the game. You want to watch the game?
Exactly.
I got it. It's like a VIP. Okay.
Right.
Gotcha.
All right. Thanks for your time. I just have a couple rapid fire ones. Nothing to do with UCF. So
Okay.
get to know you a little bit.
Sure.
Beatles or the Rolling Stones?
Beatles by far.
If this thing breaks into a karaoke event tonight, which song you singing?
Oh man, something U2.
All right.
I don't know. I like a lot of music. So
The Brady Bunch or the Partridge Family?
Partridge Family.
Okay. And you look like you're in pretty good shape. Most ADs may not be. Would you be able to win an arm wrestling contest among all the ADs in the country?
Could I win an arm wrestling contest? No. There's some big ADs out there that weigh some pounds. Could outweigh me a little bit.
Or could you take Danny White, the guy that just left town?
I don't know. I have no idea. He played basketball, played football, so you know that. So maybe.
All right, Terry, thank you so much. I appreciate you giving me a few minutes here. Good luck to you, okay?
Sons of UCF, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.
Nice to meet you, Emily.
Mike and Adam, Sons of UCF. That'll move those chains. That's good enough for another UCF first down.
All right, the star-studded portion of the show has come to an end, if you don't include Mike and I, by the way. But Mike, Terry Mohajir, again, I said it in the lead-up, certainly feels like the nicest person in America as well. Seems like the most outgoing person in America. A couple of interesting nuggets I took away. One, Sons of UCF Stadium coming soon, ? And two, again, he was pretty blunt and transparent about where we are with scheduling and what he needs to do. Sounds like he's excited about the next school or schools, I guess, that he wants to announce. UCF fans, we've been down this road before, right? There was a ton of buildup about certain schools, and we all get excited and maybe to be let down. So maybe he's trying to temper those expectations. But he seems excited about it, Mike. But he was definitely blunt and transparent about a few things, about the schedule, about naming the stadium, not giving it away, which basically kind of sounds like he's holding out for a good offer. But, hey, we have other stadiums. You want to sponsor those? So I thought he did a nice job just kind of explaining where UCF's at. Didn't dodge any questions, in my opinion. It seems like he thinks he could take Danny White in an arm wrestling contest. I'm on board with all that.
He didn't rule out Sons of UCF Stadium.
He did not.
If we can raise enough money, it's very possible. So let's start the GoFundMe now. We get a few million. He didn't say how much it would take either. I think we were getting $1 million a year from our previous sponsors.
Well, maybe hold on. Maybe we're aiming too high. Maybe we just get like the softball field. You know what I mean? Like maybe the football stadium is not in the cards for us, but maybe we grab the softball stadium. You know, I don't know. Is there a sand volleyball court, Sons of UCF court? I mean, maybe we have options here.
All right, the track and field. Maybe we can get track named after.
Yeah,
it's possible. It doesn't seem like it's that far out of reach. If we can just have enough money, it could be ours. So that's maybe something to think about between us and the fans. Maybe we get something going here.
Let's go.
Something we can own. But the one thing that shocked me out of the whole thing, Partridge Family. I wasn't ready for that one. I figured he'd be a Jan Brady guy, like pretty much everybody else. I never got into the Partridge Family, so I don't know much about it. I did like the Brady Bunch, but and the arm wrestling thing was cool. He didn't want to answer it at first. He didn't say he could, but then by the end, he said, yeah, he'd take it anyway.
Yeah. By the way, Jan Brady, I think isn't Marsha the better of the Brady sisters?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Marsha.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. Marsha.
Okay, just making sure. Yeah, I make sure I don't know where your head's at. I don't know. Maybe Moderna. I don't know where your head's at. So just make sure we're on the same page.
I am still recovering from my Moderna shot. A couple of days of it.
Yeah, but look, overall, I thought he was forthright. He was he kind of shared where he's at and where he thinks UCF needs to improve on. I thought the comment about facilities was interesting. I mean, what he said, what we're way behind, I think is the way he phrased it. Which is interesting because you wonder where does he think we're lacking next, and how does that fundraising stuff come together? Does that mean Recovery Cove is going to be sort of put on the back burner? Does he have other facilities that he thinks we need? Is he comparing that to other schools? I thought the facility stuff was interesting because obviously UCF's done a decent job the last couple of years. The Garvey Center, the new athletic center to complement the indoor field house, and obviously the baseball stadium went through some stuff. The bounce house is getting done all the time. So UCF's done some stuff facilities wise, but to hear him say that there's still some work to be done there makes you wonder sort of what his long-term vision is for some of those different facilities.
All right. And I know he was going to visit some big-time donors in the area while he was here. I believe him and Coach Malzahn were sticking around for another day or two to go visit some guys around in Fort Lauderdale. And I'm sure that's their MO everywhere else they go. So they go to the Space Coast this week and stick around there. And we got some big-time donors working around there and just get as much money as possible and improve these facilities. And we may not see the the lazy river, but if we can get better scoreboards for the baseball and the softball stadium and things like that, make the improvements that we need, get those stadiums up to par so we can host regionals, make the improvements in the football stadium. He's right. We have a long way to go. We have a good base right now, but that's what his job is, to improve all of these.
You got to think with his charm that he can just walk in a room and people's wallets just fall off the table, right? I mean, let's hope he can have that same kind of charm. But listen, like I said off the top, I mean, Danny White left, and we all kind of put our hands in our heads. No, vice versa. Our head in our hands, and try to figure out what to do next. I think we've landed firmly on our feet, and maybe it's not a hot take to say the Timo has a chance to take this thing to a whole nother level. But it was cool to catch up with him, Mike. It was definitely a cool conversation, and all in all, just a big hat tip to Mike for getting out there and meeting these guys and getting us some really cool audio and video. Which again, you can hear obviously those conversations here whenever you want. We'll put some videos up on Two Nights Media. So we've got you covered from the charge on to our overall, Mike. But now that the interviews are out of the way, let's get down to some real business here, okay? The big three, we've been doing this for a few weeks now. We rank what we think are the top three things in any specific UCF category. A lot harder than our top 8 list back in the day or a top 5. We're only getting 3 options here. We've had some really interesting topics, and this week's, Mike, is kind of inspired by your trek down to meet our head men's football and basketball coach. When's the top 3 seasons that UCF has been good in both football and basketball? It seems like we've had a bunch of years where one's good and the other one's kind of down, and then they kind of flip-flop a few years later, Mike. So the top 3 seasons where both football and basketball were good and were fun and had great seasons. That's your mission tonight for the Big Three, my friend. Are you prepared to accept this challenge?
I am ready. And every time we've done a list, I think we've had the same 3 basic, or at least 2 out of the same 3 every time. Last week we had exactly the same 3 in the exact order. I don't know if that's going to happen again. I'm ready to go. After doing some research, I think it was pretty easy to find 3, so maybe we will end up with the same ones. But also, I just want to say, the way I did it anyway, is the same academic year. So the football season would be whatever year, and then the basketball season would be the season that started
Correct. Yeah.
that year and then went into the following.
Yeah.
So
So
it would be 2018 football, 2018-19 basketball, something
correct.
like that.
Yep. That's how I did the same. So it's basically the year they both start in the same calendar year. Although again, basketball bleeds over into the following year to wrap up. So, well, then it sounds like Mike's got an easy list prepared here. So I'll let you lead the proceedings off, Mike. Number 3 year for both football and basketball being good is what?
2010.
Oh,
2010.
yeah. Okay.
The basketball team goes 21-12. They get out of the gates hot, win the first 14 games of the season. They earn us our highest ranking ever at number 19. We're talking about wins against Stetson, the Cows. We beat the Gators 57-54. I believe that was the first game ever in the new arena there in Orlando. And we beat Miami, the game down here in the Orange Bowl Classic that you and I were at. That was another big win. And then I don't know what the heck happened to this team, but they lose 8 games in a row in conference play, Conference USA. They ended up winning 5 of the final 7 to finish the regular season, but then we get beat up by East Carolina in the conference tournament in the first round, go on to the CBI, win 2 games against St. Bonaventure and Rhode Island, lose to Creighton. That was a fun team, though. That group of guys with Marcus Jordan, Keith Clanton, A.J. Ramsa, Isaiah Sykes, those guys can put some numbers up there, and they were definitely a fun team to watch. I just don't know what happened to that team. 21-12 after winning the first 14 seems like it could have been so much better. And I don't think even those guys have an answer to what happened that season. And then, do you want me? Go ahead.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. So that was that was on my list, but I couldn't do it, Mike. That ended up being number 4 on my big 3. Well, so that does not make it.
Okay. Oh, they didn't make it. All right. So the football team that same year went 11-3, 7-1 in conference. Obviously, that's Godfrey's freshman year. He comes in, and let's look at the 3 losses that we lost. The NC State game, if they put Godfrey in earlier in that game, I think for sure we win that game. The Kansas State game, which we blew, and then the one Southern Miss game in the middle of the year. That season, we were ranked for the very first time in school history after beating Houston, and then we followed that up with a Southern Miss loss. But we beat SMU in the championship game. We go to the Liberty Bowl. We beat Georgia. We finished the season ranked number 21 or number 20 in the coaches and the AP polls. So to that point, I think that was our greatest football season up until that 2010 season. So that season for basketball and football, I thought for sure our programs were taking off and there was not going to be any stopping us in that whole decade.
Yeah, that was 4 for me. I just couldn't do the basketball team. Like the wheels falling off like they did without any explanation and just getting drilled in the first round of the conference tournament. I couldn't do it. You mentioned all the impressive wins. They were also ranked 19 at one point that year too, which I believe is still our highest ever ranking basketball wise in the AP. But the way the wheels fell off there, man, I couldn't in good conscience do that one. So my number 3 is the 1998 season. We'll start basketball first. That's where you started. So the basketball team that year went 19-10. So not exactly burning it up from a record perspective. We were in the TAC back then, the TAAC. That team was led by Brad Traina, DeQuarius Stewart. Coach Kirk Spiraw was the head coach there, Mike. This was our first year on campus too, by the way, so maybe some nostalgia on my part. That team wins 9 straight to get down the stretch, gets all the way to the TAC conference tournament final, which basically back then means you're a win away from getting to the big dance. Unfortunately, things don't break the way we need them to break for us that particular day, so we did not obviously make it into the big tournament there, but still a good team, Mike. That was a solid team. We had some really handy wins throughout the year there. Again, nothing flashy about the group though. You're not going to look back at that team and go, oh god, the excitement, the highlights. I can't believe it. But still a solid overall year for the guys. Again, finishing hot down the stretch. It was a bit of a middle run there, but again they wheel off 9 straight before losing to Samford, which was kind of a rival for us back then in the conference tournament. So I'm going to go 98. And that includes, obviously, the 1998 football team, which, as you know, Mike, went 9-2 that year. This is the year, this is Dante's final season. This was the year that we should have gone to a bowl game, but did not go to our first ever bowl game because UCLA beat Miami at the last minute, or Miami beat UCLA, whatever it was, and no one knew what the hell to do. And we ended up having an offer that gets kind of wiped off the table at the last minute. And this is a 9-2 squad that we lost pretty handily to Purdue early in the year, 35-7. But we should have won Auburn. We've covered this so many times. Sia Burley replayed last week. We should have beat Auburn, end up losing 10-6. That could have been a 10-1 team if not for one bounce or one freak play here and there. And so obviously to date, that was our best football season back then. Dante being, one of the most transcendent guys, and a pretty solid basketball team in 1998, which again was 11 points away from going to the big dance. So I'm going to go number 3 on my big 3, the 1998 season.
Yeah, I remember going to those basketball games. Remember we met Dante outside one of the basketball games?
I do.
I had signed I think I had a football the ticket to the basketball game.
Yeah, we had ticket stub, yep.
Yeah. And he signed it for me in the parking lot. And that was a pretty cool moment for us. Dante was a legend on campus at the time. And you're right, the basketball team was pretty good and got us into going to the games. And they improved, obviously, the next few years and ended up going to the big dance after we left school. But you could see that the team was on the rise. And those were fun games to go to with the Kirk's Jerks there. We would always sit right behind those guys. And the good coach, bad coach chants and all that stuff. But
left, right. Oh, yeah, that was always good. And again, the names on that team, again, Brad Tran, Aquarius Stewart, Davin Granberry. I always remember that guy's name for some reason. Mario Lovett. I mean, we weren't exactly a star-studded squad back then, Mike. We weren't packing the old UCF Arena, which is now the venue for you people who are too young. There wasn't really jam-packed. And again, you probably wouldn't say this was the best basketball squad ever, but it was a solid team. And you add that with the football team, I think it was a fun year.
Yep, and the football team, I mean, when we got on campus, like I was mentioning about Dante being a legend already before we got there, I mean, you go to Burger King and his face was all over the place. He was on the cups. He was on the schedules that they put out. We were standing in the Citrus Bowl and he looked like a giant. And that was a very good team. We've talked to a few guys from that team. Sia Burley, we just had on last week. So that's what got us into UCF sports. I mean, when we went up to campus, at least I knew nothing about UCF sports at all. Coming from Fort Lauderdale, you didn't really hear much about UCF. I just kind of went up there because I loved the campus and I knew you guys were going. I had a bunch of friends going, so I figured, what the heck, let's try it out. But then when we got there and we started going to these games, that's when we started falling in love with these teams. And here we are 20 plus years later doing a podcast about it.
All right, well, let's move into number 2 then. Your number 2 on your big 3, best combined football, basketball seasons.
1993, much more buyout. Ice Cube coming with the half out. 1993-94 basketball season. They went 21-9, 11-5 in the TAC, finished second. Big wins against Rollins, FAU, FIU, West Florida, Stetson, 3 times we beat those guys. And the Cows in overtime we ended up beating. So a lot of wins against Florida schools. We get Stetson in the championship game, beat them 70-67, qualify for the big dance for the very first time, where we get to go up against Purdue with big dog Glenn Robinson. That's a big deal for the school, making history, first time ever to the big dance. I can't say I watched these guys play because I was in 8th grade. And like I just said, I had no clue about UCF sports back then. But if you're looking at the history of the basketball program, a monumental season for them, very good record. And football, 9-3, they make the playoffs. They win the first game ever against a Division 1A team. They beat Louisiana Tech 38-16. They started that season 6-1, with the only loss being to East Carolina, which was a D1 team at the time, and losing the first round of the playoffs to Youngstown State. Youngstown State was the number 1 seed and ended up winning the whole thing, so not a bad team to lose to. The average margin of victory for the football team that year, 22 points in the 9 wins. We blew teams out. I mean, we had wins by 31, 36, 35, 20, 18 points, 19 points. We were just beating the crap out of teams. Very good team. They made the playoffs. And, this is the first year that we were called the Golden Knights.
I do know that, yeah.
In all sports.
Yeah.
So before that, we were just Knights. And then from 93 to 2006, we went to Golden Knights before we switched back to Knights again. Just a little trivia thing for some of these younger folks.
Very good selection, Mike, and I will say this. I love it so much. I have it as well. So my number 2 is also the 1993 season. for some of the very same things that you mentioned. But here's a fun little fact as I was researching this that I didn't realize. That 93 basketball team, except for losing that game, we played at Florida that year. They beat us 83-69. We played pretty much every other team in the state of Florida and beat them all. We beat FAU, we beat West Florida, we beat FIU by 1, we beat FAU again. Then we played South Florida, the Cows. We beat them again. We beat FIU again. We beat Stetson twice. We pretty much own the state of Florida outside of that one blip against the Gators. Overall, a really good team. Again, some of the players on the team probably won't be guys that you remember or names you know. Ashel Swaby averaged 18 points. Victor Saxton averaged 15. Daryl Davis averaged 12. And another fun trivia fact that I did not know until I researched this, Mike. There was a junior 6'3" guard that averaged 0.8 points, 0.4 rebounds, and 0.2 assists a game that year. And that's one Darren Hinshaw, which would mean that Darren was on both of these teams, I assume. So he was a guard on the basketball team, which I did not know, and also on the football team that year as well. So fun tie-in. Darren Hinshaw, he played in 5 games. He got 1.8 minutes, so obviously he was a back at the bench type player, but he got 5 games in that year, Mike.
You know, we've been in contact with Darren a couple times about getting on the show, and we're going to have to get him on and discuss this. That's something I didn't even realize, that he played basketball for us too. Obviously, it wasn't much, but he was out there. He's part of the team, which is a pretty cool fact.
He did not make a three-pointer on the year, although it looks like he shot several. He shot 2 of 4 from the floor, though. He's 50% shooter from 2. So he had that going for him. And looks like he was money at the free throw line. Looks like he was 1 of 1.
And I think this was his only year, because looking at it now, He wasn't there. He wasn't on the team the year before.
Yeah.
So it was probably just a done with football career. Let's give basketball a shot.
But either way, I mean, 93 obviously predates probably the majority of the people listening to us now. And while certainly we never want to be accused of recency bias, I think the 93 team, again, even though the football team was 1AA back then, we were a powerhouse back then in those days under Coach McDowell. Obviously, it would have been liked a little bit better of a finish against the Penguins of Youngstown State. Fun trivia fact at that time, coached by Jim Tressel, who would later on go to Ohio State. But 93, Mike, you and I agree that's both number 2 for you and I.
That's right, and I think we're probably going to agree on number 1 here.
I think it's a no-brainer, but why don't you go ahead and just reveal it for everybody.
2018.
That's it. There's the one.
Football team goes 12-1 under first-year coach Josh Heupel, winning 9 out of 12. 9 out of the 12 games were blowouts of the 12 wins. The only close games were the 2 games against Memphis and the 1 Navy game when Bam Moore comes with a hit. The first one against Memphis with the go bone play in the rain, probably Heupel's best moment as a UCF coach. Then you get the championship game comeback with Darryl Mack. We showed the nation who we were that day against Cincinnati with the College Game Day as a fan base grew up in front of our eyes. The only bad part of the season, Mackenzie Milton injury against the Cows, which then leads to us losing against LSU, which you're never going to convince me that we don't beat LSU with Mackenzie Milton on the field that day. So we end up finishing 12th in the Coaches Bowl, 11 in the AP poll that year. Coming off the undefeated season the year before, we ran up the winning streak to 25 straight, one of our best seasons ever, even though we lost the final game, 8-0 in conference. And for the basketball team, 24-9. We started that season 13-2. We got some big wins there. The win against Alabama. We beat the Cows twice. And then we beat number 8 Houston on the college basketball game day game. And then, again, a big win against number 20 Cincinnati, where we stormed the court there with Taco Fall in the middle. That picture of him standing as a giant among everybody else, where his jersey gets stolen. Mm-hmm. That whole thing. And go on to the big dance. We win our first ever game in the big dance against Virginia Commonwealth. And then, of course, the game against Duke, which we still have nightmares about. I still cringe every time I see that shot go up. And, oh, man, if only that thing had dropped for us, what could have happened? Going into the Sweet 16. But still, I think our greatest basketball season ever, you have to say, with the record and winning a game in the tournament. That combined with a perfect regular season in football, has to be the number one combination of sports, 2018 football and basketball.
Yeah, it's a hands down. Obviously, that basketball team, they were ranked at one point. We were ranked 25 in the country at one point. So we do essentially, I guess, have a top 25 in there, although I don't remember exactly where that was. Probably after the Houston or Cincinnati game. A couple of black marks. We got drilled that year in the conference tournament. Memphis just destroyed us in the opening round, which I think put us in a little bit of concern about our tournament hopes. But then we get there, and we took VCU out pretty handily. I think they were a tough opponent back then. Not that they're not now, but really tough defensive team, and we played them really well, and we wiped the floor of them. I don't even think that was getting close down the end there. And obviously, you mentioned the Duke game, which was really kind of hyped as Taco and Zion, and obviously that was the matchup most people wanted to hear or see coming into that game. But that was a game. Aubrey Dawkins, people will forget how well he played. He was 5 of 7. From 3. He had 32 points overall. He played all 40 minutes. And it's unfortunate that all we remember is that one tip at the end that just, I don't even know how it goes off by like an eyelash hair, and doesn't go in. But he was phenomenal that entire game, which turned out to be his last game at UCF. Just a fantastic season. That team was so much fun to watch. You had Taco, you had Colin Smith, you had BJ Taylor, you had Dayon Griffin, Chad Brown was like a human energy drink off the bench. Frankie Birds could shoot from anywhere. I mean, that was just a fun squad and a fun year from the basketball perspective. And it was so cool because it came off of, so this is 2018, right? So 2017, UCF gets on the map. We go undefeated, national championship claim, right? We're all over the place and people are hearing about us. We come back and we do it again in football. But to your point, we lose KZ and lose a close one in the Fiesta Bowl. And then 2 months later, we're back on everybody's TVs again, this time and playing basketball, playing against Duke. Duke always gets ratings, always gets numbers. Zion was the star of college basketball that year, and that we took him down to that basically last second, the spot. I mean, there was a good, I don't know, probably 4 month stretch there where you just couldn't get UCF off your TV. And you couple that with 2017, just kind of I don't know if it's the golden era of UCF sports, UCF athletics, but it just felt like everywhere you turned that year. I mean, basketball was on, like you said, College Game Day. Everywhere you turned, it seemed like it was all UCF, and it was quite a time to be alive, Mike.
That Duke team had a few guys that were first round draft picks. I mean, you got RJ Barrett, you had Zion. There was another one too, I think.
Cam Reddish, yeah.
But that tournament was so much fun. That's why I love the big dance so much. And it worked out perfectly for us because we were the late game on Friday night. So you get to enjoy the Thursday games. You're into it. Then you get the Friday all day, just getting you hyped up for that game. We go to the Friday game, and we played the best game of the season. And the game was close for, the first 10 minutes. And then we just blew right past those guys. That was so much fun. The most fun I've had watching a UCF basketball game. And something we waited for forever, to get to the dance and win one. We've seen us go a few times and have some close calls. The game against Pittsburgh and what was it, 04 or 05? Mm-hmm. The game against UConn, where we were getting blown out, and then cut it really close towards the end. But then to finally break through, that was awesome. And the football team was just on fire for 2 years. Something that I hope people didn't take for granted at the time, which we kind of warned everybody, and we kind of seen what's happened now in the last couple of years since then. So enjoy it when it happens. And hopefully Coach Malzahn will get us back on track and back to these perfect seasons that we're all expecting now. But and when it comes, I hope everybody just takes it for what it is, man, and doesn't think that it's going to happen every year, because it doesn't.
Yeah, and same with Coach Dawkins, right? Hopefully he can take this young talent that he's bringing into UCF and these young guys and mold them into a tournament team, because, again, there's nothing funner than rolling off of a bowl season where UCF's going to have a good bowl victory, New Year's Six game, rolling right into college basketball and the sort of the end of the conference play, the tournament, the conference tournament, and then the NCAA tournament. Those back-to-back months can just be fantastic. And the hard thing about this exercise, it did feel like there was a number of years where it was only one team or the other was good. I mean, UCF basketball really sort of peaked there in the 2003-2004 season. They went 25-6 and then 24-9 back-to-back. Well, those were probably two of the worst years in UCF football history, 3-9 and 0-11 in those years. That was the last year of Mike Kruzak, the first year of George O'Leary. So it took some time for 2016, UCF goes 24-12 NIT final, football team 6-7. So it took a while. I'm like, there wasn't that many years where it kind of lined up, and it just made you stop and realize, like, man, it's been a while since both these teams were really, really good at the same time, and it hasn't happened all that often. But, man, when it does, nothing's funner than that.
That's right. The other time our basketball team was a powerhouse was, you got to go back to the Torchy Clark days.
Pre-football,
and you're talking about 1978, where we make the Final Four. 79, we're very good. 80, we're very good. But football is in its infancy stage. We just started in 79. So nothing really to write home about with the football team at that point. So, yeah, it hasn't happened often. 2018 was the top as it gets so far. So hopefully we can get back to that and go past 2018 eventually. Get to a Sweet 16 in basketball, go undefeated, get to the playoff in football. We still have goals ahead of us, things that we haven't accomplished, and that's the beauty of being a part of this young school that's still seeing a lot of firsts as we go together.
Well, hopefully with Malzahn, with Dawkins, and Mohajir, we are prime position to bring that fun back to UCF. But coming up, Mike, our only fun of the show is when we make fun of people, and that's what we call Cow of the Week. And we're coming up, it's right after this. Don't move.
I'm Jeff Allen. Join me each week for unique yet common sense opinions on sports on the Jeff Allen Sports Talk Podcast. We will break down the sports world minus the hot takes with prominent guests and my stable of sports guys. It's sports conversation the way it should be. Search Jeff Allen Sports Talk wherever you get your podcasts or go to jeffallensportstalk.com.
There are cows among us. Adam and Mike will tell you who.
All right, a lot's gone on here tonight, Mike. The show's moving really fast for us. A lot of interviews, a lot of big names. Let's slow it down a little bit. And this time comes, we get to make fun of different things, different people, and we call that Cow of the Week. And it's somebody or something that just did something idiotic or something that's foolish or something that just doesn't make any sense or something that was maybe downright funny, Mike. So each week we nominate or we elect a Cow of the Week. And you take the lead off every week. So why don't you go ahead and kick it off this week? Who is your cow?
All right. I often struggle trying to find a cow, mostly because I forget that we even do this every week. And we get to this point in the break and you say, who's your cow? And I say, I don't know. Who you got for me? But this week was easy. I saw this happen last week, and I said to myself, that's an easy cow of the week for the next show. And here we are, the NCAA women's golf. There was a regional that was supposed to take place in Baton Rouge at LSU, and the regional tournament got canceled before they could even start playing. And you see a video of the girls that are supposed to participate in this tournament sitting outside a building, and this guy, his name is Brad Hurlbutt. I guess that's a fitting name.
That's
for
a
this
tough
guy.
one. Yeah, tough poor guy.
Comes down and informs the girls that the tournament will not take place, that the course is, first of all, he says the course is playable, but it's not playable on a championship level. Now, what the heck does that mean? If it's playable, it's playable. Don't give me this crap about championship level. The girls are distraught. Some of them, their careers are over. They'll never get to play competitive college golf again because this guy says the course is not playable on a championship level. Why? Because there's some puddles on the course? I don't know if this guy's ever played golf before, but there's these things called water hazards that are on basically every golf course. I mean, there's lakes in the middle of courses. So there's a big puddle there. Play around it. I mean, that just adds to the course. Am I wrong on this? What am I missing here? I don't understand that part at all. So I see pictures of the courses. I mean, it looks fine to me. I see one big puddle, definitely not bigger than any kind of lake that it's normally out there. I don't understand why they decided to do this. And you got they just picked 6 teams to advance from this group now. So teams like LSU, Ole Miss, Baylor, Oregon, Maryland, and Alabama get a free ride into the next round, while other teams like Miami and some other ones that were there, you're told, go home. You cannot compete. And this is something we can't see in college sports, man. This is just crap. I mean, these kids put so much time into training for these things. They dedicate their lives to this, some of them for 4 years and more than that, growing up. I mean, think about your parents, how much they invest in you playing sports as a kid, all the money they put and buying equipment and coaches and lessons and all that stuff, and you get to a big-time college tournament, you're a senior, this is it for you, and it gets canceled because it rained. And they couldn't push it back a day? I mean, there's so many other things they could have done to avoid this situation. It just breaks your heart for some of these kids. I don't get it. This was an easy cow of the week for me. The NCAA women's golf for canceling this regional tournament.
Yeah, I don't pretend to be a golf expert. I don't know courses really well, but I feel like I've seen like a really giant squeegee they've used where they kind of get the water off the course, and if the puddles were really deep, and then they're like a sump pump or something. I feel like there are options. I think you hit it on the head. This was the only option. There was no like, hey, we can maybe play later. Hey, maybe we only play the front knot. Like there were no other options. The only recourse they had was, we got to cancel the whole thing. It's the NCAA just never getting out of their own way and just making just bad decision after bad decision, and never really seeming to have any consistency or any kind of understanding of what the student athlete goes through. The worst part is you see the video. It's a grainy video on Twitter where this guy walks down this giant staircase and he's got all these people, and he's basically like, hey, we're not playing. We're so sorry. The course is playable, but it's not championship playable. And you hear the girls start yelling, like, what are you talking about? This can't be like, and you can just hear the frustration and disgust in their voice. That's got to suck. I put myself, obviously, like you probably do, Mike, in the shoes of a parent, and if that's your daughter waiting to play, a course, a tournament of her dreams, perhaps, maybe a tournament that's going to change her life if she shoots in a low number and, gets an opportunity maybe at some point to go on tour and she becomes the best golfer ever, right? Like, while that certainly, takes some time, you feel for those kids. And it's just the NCAA just doing what they do best. And you hit it on the head. There was no other. This was the only option. There was nothing else on the table. What was plan B if this didn't work out? It feels like it's a dumb decision.
I mean, rain affects a lot of sports. In baseball, softball, you're telling me the regional tournament in Tallahassee this weekend, we're going up there to play, and it rains on Friday, and they're not going to cancel the whole tournament and just say, okay, Florida State advanced. You play the next day. It's simple as that. Or you push it back another day. What's it going to cost them to do that? Keep the kids in town for another day. The NCAA has so much money. Do a solid for these kids. I don't understand stupid decisions like this where you're going to have to get somebody on here to tell me exactly what else went into this decision. Obviously, it's probably something to do with money. It always is. But, I mean, eat a couple bucks and let these girls go out there and compete for a championship when they've worked so hard to get there.
Yeah, I wasn't following the story super close. I don't know that I understand the pros of doing. The cons are well documented. What were the pros of this? Where was this a win? I guess I don't get that, but we'll keep on this particular story. It sounds like Barstool is trying to make it right, and they're proposing some sort of a tournament. I don't know if that'll actually take place or how that works out, but it sounds like Barstool Sports is trying something. Maybe that works out. It's just a bad spot all around, which, I mean, hey, you come to expect that from your friends at the NCAA, Mike. My cow of the week, though, a little closer to home. I'm sad to have to do this, Mike. I'm going to have to go after a family member of mine.
You mentioned this earlier in the episode. I was wondering which one it's going to be.
It pains me.
One of the kids?
It pains me, Mike, because your kids are your offspring, your flesh and blood. You want to raise them right, and it is at this moment that I must confess to you all that I apparently have failed as a parent. Let me explain just a little bit for you here. My lovely daughter Addison, she is an 8th grader, and she was preparing for a history test. She had a big history test coming up, and it's on sort of it's U.S. history, so some Civil War stuff and some Confederate stuff, all that U.S. history jazz. And she was in class, and they were doing a bit of a test preparation exercise. The teacher was kind of shouting out questions and letting them answer, and sort of just kind of quizzing them on things that would be on the test. And the teacher, I should stop and share with you, is a diehard UCF football fan. He has flags in his classroom, apparently. He has, T-shirts, he has ties, he has all kinds of UCF stuff in his classroom. Now, all year long, I've been telling Addison, hey, listen, if you want, you want me to go meet your teacher? You want me to you can have a hat you can give him. Like, maybe, grease the skids, get a good grade in U.S. history, right? Maybe trying to help out a little bit. I don't know if he listens to the show or not. I don't know if I was like asking if you told him that I know a little bit about UCF football and sports, and she's like, no, that's embarrassing. So I don't think she's ever disclosed it to him. I think she did tell him that both myself and my wife went to UCF, but I don't think he knows anything about this particular podcast. So all year, hey, I want to give him a hat. Hey, do you want to, I'll have him on the show. Nothing ever working, right? So he's doing this quiz, and he's, yelling out questions. What year was the Civil War? And, who was the first general of the Army? And he's doing all this stuff, right? And he got to a question, and nobody knew the answer, apparently. And then he said, all right, since no one knows that one, I'll throw you a bonus question. And he asked everybody a UCF sports trivia question and said, if anybody knows the answer, I'll give you, 25 bonus points on the test. And Mike, will you believe this? My daughter had no clue what the answer was. No clue. So much so, she doesn't even remember the question anymore. I've been asking, I actually almost have to email the teacher now to find out what the question was, because I won't sleep until I know this question. A UCF sports-related question threw out to the audience for a 25-point potential extra credit on her test. This is in her wheel. This is what we do, Mike. This is right in her wheelhouse. If anybody has an advantage here, it would have to be her. I'm assuming it would be an easy question. I don't think he's going to ask who leads UCF in all-time receptions. I assume it's something where the answer is probably Mackenzie Milton, maybe Shaquem Griffin, maybe Blake Bortles. I assume it's going to be something pretty easy, that he's not going to ask somebody who the third-string running back is on the depth chart from 1997. And my daughter, who lives under my roof, is going to UCF games with me in the past, watches every game on TV, although not happily, does not know the answer, Mike. I have failed as a parent. So I'm not sure who's cow of the week here, me or her. Somewhere in there's a cow. And either way, I'm not happy about it.
Your daughter, who attended the spring game with you earlier this year.
That's correct.
The creator of the Sons of UCF TikTok account.
That's also correct, yeah.
Which
I think it's still active, by the way. I have no idea.
I actually looked it up the other day because my daughters were on TikTok. There's the one video of you running your son up.
There we go.
This is tough to hear, man.
This
is really tough to hear.
Yeah.
You definitely got to get in contact with the teacher and find out what the question was.
I do.
And then you have to punish your daughter thoroughly
mm-hmm.
for getting this wrong. I mean, we're talking about grounding. We're talking about no phone.
Yeah, it's a phone takeaway situation, right?
Right.
At minimum?
No iPads. Yeah, no Wi-Fi at all.
Ooh.
Nothing.
Cut the Wi-Fi off.
So that's no Netflix, none of that stuff. You're banned for at least a week.
Okay.
Maybe more, depending on the question. I got to hear what this question is.
I know.
There's something. I mean, she was at the Fiesta Bowl against LSU.
She was.
She's been to. She was at the Boca Bowl with us this year.
She was.
Which, by the way, maybe she's not allowed to go to any more games because those are the bowl games that we lost.
At this rate, Mike, she might not be living in the house. I don't really know what to do. And as a parent, you look in yourself in the mirror and go, "Where have I gone wrong? Hey, what have I done that this is where my child is at? That there's a wheelhouse question, and she could easily raise her hand and give the answer if she knows it, and nothing. And again, all year I've been nice. I've been like, hey, do you want me to call the teacher? You want me to send him an email? You want me to bring him a hat? And she doesn't want to get embarrassed. Like, you'll get to the point, Mike, where your girls, at some point you'll turn from dad to you embarrass them. Addison's that age, right? She's 13 going on 14, where everything we do embarrasses her. So you'll get to that point where you're just a big, giant embarrassment to your children, which is fine. You come to accept it. But I was trying to actually help her get a better grade. Again, these hats are highly sought after. I have no idea if he listens to the show. Mr. Braddock, if you're listening to the show, just send me an email with the question. If not, I'll contact you. But yeah, it's you look in the mirror as a parent and you just go, where did I go wrong? What have I done?
Does her school have one of those wear your favorite team shirt day or whatever? I'm sure she's probably even worn a UCF shirt to school. I do.
Yes, that is. You know what? When we were at the spring game, for whatever reason, even though we live in Florida, my daughter has this obsession with sweatshirts and hoodies. And so we were at the bookstore. She bought a UCF hoodie, and she's worn it to school multiple times. Yes, by the way, it's 80 degrees every day. Worn it to school multiple times since we got back from the spring game. So I know her teacher has seen her wear it. I know it's come up that her parents, my wife and I, went to UCF. So you would think that he was looking right at her, and he was like, hey, who's the name of the quarterback that used to play at UCF but doesn't anymore? Like, you have to think that. This is just right. I can't even talk. I'm embarrassed.
Well, now he's definitely questioning you as a parent.
Yes.
Because he knows that. Judged. He's like, who are these parents? This girl, they probably never watched a football game. They're probably some engineering students that went there for engineering and don't go to football games or anything like that. Yeah, you're in trouble now. So you need to get in contact with this guy.
Yeah. He's probably like, thank God this guy doesn't host a podcast. I mean, that's probably where he's at right now. Yeah.
Oh, man, we're going to have to send him a hat. We're going to have to do something for him. And the school year's almost over, so he won't be her teacher for much longer.
No,
right? And she's going to actually move schools. She's going to a different school.
Yeah.
She's going to high school.
She'll be high school, yeah.
So in a few weeks, maybe when they say goodbye, maybe, I don't know if there's anything at the end. There's graduation or something, right?
There is a graduation. It's virtual, though. We're not allowed on campus. They're going to film it and send it to the parents. So we can't actually go on campus. So I got to find a way to get on campus and get this guy a hat and something because, again, just a big, giant embarrassment. So is she cow of the week? Am I cow of the week? What's the ruling here? Both of us?
Yeah. Until I find out what the question was, I can't know for sure.
Okay.
But
all right.
Right now, I'm gonna have to declare both of you guys.
Okay, and that's fair, and it's justified. I owe you the question. I will get to Mr. Braddock, and I will get the understanding of the question. The only hint, I'm like, Addison, you don't remember come on. The only thing she thinks she remembers is they were talking about Jefferson Davis, who was I believe the first leader of the Confederacy. And that's how it dovetailed into a UCF question. So she's like, is there a guy named Jefferson? I'm like, well, there's Sean Jefferson, but is that what that's what Mr. Braddock's talking about? Or was there a Davis? I'm like, well, there's a lot of Davises. I mean, could be any one of those guys. So I don't know the tie in there. I have no idea if Jefferson Davis has anything to do with the question, and that's just the last thing she heard. I don't really know, but I will get to the bottom. Answers are owed. And I will get you all those answers. And on behalf of my family, please accept our apology. This is the most embarrassing thing that has happened to us, and we may not go out of the house for weeks now.
For 25 bonus points, it may have been a tough question like Sean Jefferson. So you never know. And like you mentioned, your daughter is embarrassed by you. Well, now you're embarrassed by her. So you got to hold this on her
Sure.
for the next couple of years at least.
Actually, I told her that she was going to be cow of the week this week, and you know what she said to me?
What's that?
Does that mean I have to listen to your show finally? so this may Addison, if you're listening, Dad says hi. You made the show.
There was one time years ago where, my family doesn't listen to the show either. My wife doesn't, and she was saying something like, "I did something stupid and whatever." She goes, "Oh, so are you going to be monkey of the week this week?" I'm like, it's cow of the week, first of all.
Yeah, jeez.
And no, I'm not.
So. You didn't nominate her for that? I mean, I think we need to go back. I mean, we'll have to check the archives and see if that one's in there. We still have all those archives, by the way. But either way, again, action-packed show. Again, big pat on the back, UCF Mike, getting out to charge on tour to get some great sound from Timo, from Dawkins, and from Malzahn. And we'll get the videos posted on Two Nights Media YouTube, so you guys can take a look at the faces of the coaches as they sat down to get grilled by UCF Mike. Always a good time whenever we have a chance to do that, Mike. So definitely big kudos to you for doing that stuff. Again, make sure you're following us everywhere so that you can keep up with all the nonsense we're doing. Don't forget our new website at twonightsmedia.com. You're going to want to bookmark that. You never know when something will pop up there. And don't forget live shows Thursday, 8 p.m. on the social media stuff, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and our website, I guess. You can also go to Two Nights Media. It'll be playing through YouTube on the website. So a lot of different places to catch up with us, Mike. Another fantastic show, another fantastic week. I don't know how we top this one, buddy. Maybe 133 needs to be the end. I don't know.
We're wrapping it up. That's it. That's all she wrote.
I said maybe.
We've said that a bunch of times. And we said that when we brought O'Leary on a couple times. And how do we top that? We had Maury Povich on. How do we top that? We had Mike Golick. I don't know what we do. And somehow, eventually, we end up topping it. We said the same thing a couple years ago when I had Danny White and Josh Heupel and Mark Daniels on in the same episode. Well, I think this one tops that one, and who knows what's to come in the future.
Well, I'm going to get booking here. And maybe we get Darren Hinshaw. You already dropped his name, a couple of names out there. You never know who will pop up next. But you can always find us wherever you get your podcast. We're out each week. So make sure you subscribe, you rate, you review, you follow. And do yourselves a favor. You guys have a fantastic week. Mike, myself, and Trace Choco will talk to you Thursday on the live show. Until then, everybody, be safe, be well. Go Knights.
Charge on.